the first thing she noticed was the silence. Not the ordinary kind, the kind that follows a closed door or an empty hallway, but a heavy, suffocating silence that seemed to swallow every sound, every thought, every breath. It clung to her skin as she stood there, surrounded by chaos, flashing cameras, and panicked voices. And right in the middle of it all, a calm, steady voice cut through like a blade. "Stay quiet. Follow me." She turned, startled, her world of polished boardrooms and private jets suddenly feeling useless in the face of whatever was unfolding. The man standing before her didn't look like someone who belonged in her world. His clothes were simple, worn but clean. His face carried the weight of sleepless nights, and his eyes held something she hadn't seen in years, certainty. She didn't know why, but she listened. "Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet strength of ordinary people, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Lifeline Tales. Stories like this deserve to be felt by more hearts." Her name was Alara Vance, one of the youngest self-made billionaires in the country. She had built an empire from nothing, tech innovations, global investments, a reputation for ruthless decisions. People admired her, feared her, envied her. But very few truly knew her. To the world, she was untouchable. To herself, she was tired. This day was supposed to be another victory. A charity event, hosted under the bright midday sun, where she would donate millions and receive applause in return. Cameras flashed, reporters shouted questions, and everything was perfectly choreographed, until it wasn't. A sudden commotion broke out near the back of the venue. Security guards rushed, people screamed, and the carefully constructed illusion of control shattered in seconds. Someone had collapsed. Or maybe more than one person. The details blurred as panic spread like wildfire. That was when she heard him. "Stay quiet. Follow me." The man didn't wait for her answer. He turned and began moving through the crowd with quiet urgency, not pushing, not shouting, just weaving through the chaos as if he knew exactly where to go. Something about his calmness anchored her. Against all logic, she followed. They slipped past the main hall, through a narrow service corridor that smelled faintly of cleaning supplies and forgotten corners. The noise faded behind them, replaced by a stillness that felt almost unreal. Alara's heels clicked against the floor, each step echoing her uncertainty. Who was he? Why was she following him? The man stopped at a side door and pushed it open. Bright daylight flooded in, revealing a small courtyard behind the building. It was quiet, untouched by the panic inside. For a moment, it felt like stepping into another world. "Wait here," he said, finally turning to face her. She studied him now, really looked. He was older than she first thought, maybe mid-30s. There were faint lines around his eyes, the kind that come from worry rather than age. His hands were rough, marked by years of work. "You just pulled me out of my own event," she said, her voice steady but edged with disbelief. "Do you have any idea who I am?" "Yes," he replied simply. "That's why I did it." The answer caught her off guard. Before she could respond, he moved toward a bench at the far end of the courtyard. Only then did she notice the small figure lying there, a child, no older than 7 or 8, pale and unmoving. Her breath caught. "My daughter," he said, his voice softer now. "Her name is Suri." Everything shifted in that moment. The chaos inside the building suddenly made sense. The panic. The urgency. This wasn't about her event or her reputation. This was about a little girl fighting for her life. "What happened?" Alara asked, stepping closer despite herself. "She collapsed," he said. "It's her heart. We've been waiting, hoping, but time isn't something we have much of anymore." There was no desperation in his voice, no begging. Just a quiet truth. Alara felt something unfamiliar stir inside her, a crack in the armor she had spent years building. She had seen suffering before, funded hospitals, signed checks with more zeros than most people could imagine. But this was different. This was real, immediate, human. "Why bring me here?" she asked. He met her gaze, unwavering. "Because you don't see it," he said. "Not really. People like you help from a distance. You don't stand in it." The words should have offended her. In any other moment, they would have. But standing there, looking at Suri's fragile form, she couldn't argue. "And you think this will change something?" she asked quietly. "I think you needed to see her," he said. "Not as a number. Not as a case file. As a person." The courtyard seemed to hold its breath. Elara knelt beside the bench, her expensive clothes brushing against the dusty ground. She reached out, hesitated, then gently took Suri's hand. It was small, cold, and heartbreakingly still. For the first time in years, Elara felt powerless. "What do you need?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The man didn't answer immediately. He looked at his daughter, then back at Elara. "A chance," he said. "That's all." The simplicity of it hit harder than any plea could have. Time moved differently after that. Calls were made, not by assistants or managers, but by Elara herself. Emergency services arrived. Doctors were contacted. Resources that once felt abstract became immediate, tangible lifelines. But the real change wasn't in the actions. It was in her. She stayed. She didn't return to the stage, didn't face the cameras or deliver her speech. Instead, she remained in that quiet courtyard, sitting beside a man who had nothing but still carried himself with quiet strength, and a child who had unknowingly changed everything. Hours passed under the steady warmth of the midday sun. The world outside continued, unaware of the transformation happening in that small, hidden space. At one point, Suri stirred. It was faint, barely noticeable, but enough to send a surge of hope through both of them. The man leaned forward, his entire being focused on that tiny movement. "She's strong," he said, almost to himself. Elara watched him, something deep inside her shifting. This man, this single father, had faced a reality far harsher than any boardroom battle she had ever fought. And yet, he stood here, not broken, but unwavering. "What's your name?" she asked. "Kale," he replied. She nodded, committing it to memory. In the days that followed, everything changed. Suri was admitted to one of the best hospitals, her treatment fully funded without hesitation. Specialists were brought in, procedures planned, hope rekindled. But Elara didn't disappear back into her world of glass towers and endless meetings. She visited. At first, it was out of a sense of responsibility. Then, something else took over. She found herself drawn to the hospital, to the quiet room where Suri lay recovering, to the conversations with Kale that felt more real than anything she had experienced in years. He never treated her like a billionaire. Never flattered her, never feared her. To him, she was simply someone who had been given a chance to see, and had chosen not to look away. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the hospital window, Suri opened her eyes fully for the first time. Elara was there.